Today is Monday the 29th of July 2024 and today is Dan's birthday. Yay! We've been to Rochester and we had a wander along the high street and in some of the charity shops. We also went to Lenny's for lunch and then we went to Mrs. Ticket's for a coffee. It's been a hot day today. Dan's feeding the cats. It's shortly past 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We got back about half an hour ago. Been enjoying the sunshine. I've just taken my remedies for the day. I took the Arsenicum Album, One Bang, One Drop. And I've just taken Aquamarine in tablet form that Lee prescribed me to work alongside the Arsenicum Album. Aquamarine can be helpful in relieving the symptoms of several different types of allergies, and the crystals offer a lot of healing energy to the emotional body, not only allowing the person to experience calm reflection when looking inward, but also for strengthening the immune system, and it's also good for things like swollen glands as well. Aquamarine also works on the endocrine system, the nervous system, heart and circulation and musculature. Someone like myself with underactive thyroid, then Aquamarine is a good support. It also helps people after a stroke, especially after remedies such as opium, arnica and calcium, after seizures, with fainting, especially when there's absent-mindedness, lack of self-awareness and shock anywhere on the system. It can also be used for things like Parkinson's, MS and conditions marked by dystonia, which is impairment of the muscle tone. Also with asthmatic breathing, particularly where the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm are held in spasm. The remedy has a bias for the left side of the body. It should be considered in those who have suffered vaccine damage that has gone beyond physical symptoms, and in children who have been adversely affected in the mind, emotions or spirit by any vaccine. Well, I don't do vaccines, but that's well worth noting. It affects the thyroid gland and is especially useful in patients whose diagnosis is uncertain from blood tests, or who appear to swing between hypo and hypothyroidism, or who have a confusing mixture of symptoms of both. There's times when I go hyper, usually when I need my dose reducing. I didn't have my dose reduced this year, but I did the year before. There have been times in the past as well where I've kept swinging between hypo and hyper. So that's worth knowing as well. It's also of use in patients affected by geopathic stress. It's also a remedy to consider for children who carry mobile phones around with them all the time, and it's protective against the auric influence of mobile phones held too close to the body and of the masts that emit electromagnetic energy. That's actually a big one these days. A lot of us have this problem where we're affected by EMFs and we might not know for sure that it's the EMFs who are causing us problems. The radiation that comes off them can cause deep shock and trauma to the mind, body and the soul. Aquamarine can also be used safely by those who are on allopathic medicine. It won't interfere with the intended action of the chemical drugs. It's especially useful as well for those suffering from stress or grief, such as bereavement, or even the loss of a job, which can result in a form of bereavement as well. Sadness and grief seems as if these come from a great distance and belong to another time. Fearful of and haunted by the past, fearfulness and unhappiness in those whose parents also felt fear and sadness, an inherited tendency to sadness, even in those whose lives are not especially marked by grief, and a sense of the heaviness of years of emotional turmoil. But this can also result as a consequence of those feelings held by our ancestors. The DNA of traumatic times can be carried through successive generations, and even if we're not aware of that, it can manifest itself in various ways. So Aquamarine is also useful for that too. We'll see how I get on with that, but bearing in mind I'm very receptive to crystal energy, it should be a good one. We're having cake soon and a glass of something bubbly and some salad, and Dan will open his presents, and I'm hoping he likes what I've got for him. He's got some from his mum as well, he's here, and hopefully we'll have a nice tea party. This is Thursday the 1st of August and it's Latmas, or the First Harvest Festival. Though with the way things are with weather and growing patterns, I'm not sure what kind of harvest anybody's going to have this year. Anyway, I'm staying at my mills for a week. Dan had a lovely birthday. I had a weird dream on Monday night. I was in a cafe and it was very hot weather, and I was in a bit of a fix. I didn't really have anywhere to go, and eventually I decided to get a drink, but I didn't buy anything to eat, and I was expecting my mum to join me. Of course, my mum's been in spirit for several years, and she and my brother turned up. She took me aside and she said to me that Robert had put some of the things in storage and she wasn't happy about it. I didn't really pass much of a comment. I went to join the queue for drinks, which was very long, so I moved to another queue which appeared to be shorter. The next thing I know, it's night time and I've got drinks and I'm walking somewhere, and I'm not walking back into the direction where we were all sitting. I was just walking. I don't really know where I was walking to, but it was a moonlit sky and there was a nice cool breeze, and then I woke up. So that's another timeline dream. Very interesting. I have no idea what that dream was trying to convey. Yesterday we sat around for quite a while, and then we went for a walk around Kew Gardens. It was really too warm earlier on in the day, for me anyway, and I bought another sun hat. This one is quite wide brimmed. It's the kind of hat that Dame Joan Collins wears. It really does help to keep the sun off the face, and I decided to just wear it straight away. I've already got a large hat collection. Why I need more hats, I don't know. I just don't know. Stuff has come now, waiting, ready for when I get back. I have ordered some manuscript paper, which should have arrived from eBay. I've also invested in a Samsung selfie stick because I can't afford the DJI 3 blogging camera that I want, so the selfie stick will do for now. And there's some gardening stuff that arrived the other day, which I think Dan's going to get to work with over the next few days while I'm away. Yesterday I went up to Wellbeing 1 drop twice a day of my remedy. The Arsenicum album is going well again, and it doesn't seem to be affecting me yet. It was my most successful remedy. I've been fine as well on the Aquamarine 100C, which I took on Monday. I'm hopeful that anything that went awry with the phosphorus remedy will now be rectified by the time I have my next consultation with Lee at the end of August. This morning we're going to Kingston to do some shopping, and we might have some cheeky tea bread in Starbucks, and rain is due this evening. It feels quite muggy today. Yesterday was a really hot day. It was probably the hottest. It may or may not, of course, rain. The weather forecast is never particularly accurate, so we'll see what tomorrow brings. This is Saturday the 3rd of August 2024. I've had a good week so far. I went on to one bang, one drop of my remedy twice a day on Wednesday. Yesterday my Mill and I went to Fenton House in Hampstead, and that was great. We saw the collection of early music keyboards and other instruments. Some of them date back to the 1500s, and they go right up to the later 1700s. And there was a lady playing the harpsichord, which was lovely, some Scarlatti. And we had a walk around the gardens. The gardens include a sunken garden and an orchard and kitchen garden. It was beautiful, and the weather turned out to be really good. It was slightly drizzly off and on first thing, but then by the time we had arrived and settled in, the sun came out and it was beautiful. We also bought a cheeky cake on the way back to Hampstead Heath Overground Station. It's not a bad walk, actually. It's about 20 minutes. If you go on the underground though to Hampstead, then Fenton House is a very short walk away, a matter of mere minutes. But we enjoyed having a longer walk through Hampstead and admiring all the old buildings and all the shops and the heath, and just soaking up the vibe. I always find North London has a more relaxed vibe than other areas of London. Had Dan and I had the money, we would have probably moved to North London, but we couldn't afford anything and ended up in Thanet instead. Obviously everything happens for a reason, and we have learnt some valuable lessons along the way. Today is more of a chill out day, though the sun is coming out again now, so I may need to get changed later before we go for a walk. I'm going to do some of my tax returns and just have a lazy breakfast and sit around a bit. This is Sunday, and it's the 4th of August 2024, and today is the new moon in Leo. My Mill has gone for a walk. It's still quite early, it's about 7:40 a.m. I got up shortly after she went out. I have a little bit of an active belly. I've had a nice shower and I've washed my hair. I probably ate something last night that didn't necessarily agree with my digestive system. Maybe I'm missing my daily kimchi. I've been eating beetroot every day though still. I seem to be doing well as well on the one bang, one drop twice a day of my remedy, which is the Arsenicum Album LM2 potency, which is the potency I was on before the wicked phosphorus remedy. Wicked because it made me look like a leper, and I felt like one too, with all the spots from the aggravation, and which practically covered the whole of my body. It was extremely uncomfortable. I had pineapple again the other day for the first time since the previous round of the Arsenicum album, and I'm highly delighted to report that I've had no mouth ulcers, blisters or anything else. So that has held. So I'm really pleased about that. I'm also pleased that I can still wear silver plated or gold plated earrings, whereas before I never could. And I'm also pleased that onions no longer make my life a misery when I prepare them. I used to try every trick in the book, spoon in mouth, water running, goggles, you name it. It never worked, but I'm pleased to report that probably the last 2 or 3 months, it doesn't bother me now when I prepare onions. And the realisation about the onions only really crept on me when I was thinking about things in Blackpool earlier in July, and it dawned on me suddenly that I hadn't had a problem preparing onions for a little while. I don't know why the penny hadn't dropped before, but I suppose with everything else going on, I hadn't really had enough time to contemplate how things were going. And as I had had to give up my phosphorus remedy before I went to Blackpool, being away gave me time to reflect on what had worked and what hadn't worked, and that's when the penny dropped about the onions. Well, we've had a few days now of riots and awful social unrest, and it seems if we carry on like this, we're just going to play into the hands of the elites and their agenda, whatever that agenda is. And things like martial law could become a possibility, which none of us want. And our freedoms, what's left of them, are all at risk. We need to stop fighting each other. We just need to think, look, we're all human beings and we all bleed the same, and we need to come together because we're all brothers and sisters. Today on the new moon, I am going to call for restored peace wherever unrest is in the world. I would also like to call for peace in the wars that are going on, so a resolution can be found, solution can be sought to whatever problems are holding us back as a human race. It should never be about the people. For millennia, the people have been kept under the thumb and manipulated, so to speak. It's really time we came together and said, no, enough is enough, and stop feeding the war machine. I personally don't like my tax dollars going to war to perpetrate violence and death. I am a pacifist. On Thursday, the Lionsgate portal is open at its fullest. It's opened later in July, and it will remain open for about a week or thereabouts after the 8th of August. And more people are walking through this year than ever before as they awake and continue to open their eyes. It's almost like a Wizard of Oz situation. It's like we've all been sleepwalking to a certain degree, but then when we wake up, we can't go back to sleep, and we can suddenly see the wizard behind the curtain pulling the strings with his machine, and then we realise the full extent to which we have been manipulated. I am, though, trying not to focus on these dark things. I think it is more productive and it's better for one's vibrations to step away from social media and in general the media machine and go about doing whatever makes you happy to keep those vibrations high, and also to focus and to pray for higher timelines and peace and harmony, greater peace and harmony, and trust, more trust in the world, and also to pray for each and every one of us recognising our sovereignty. And that indeed is, I believe, a very powerful thing. The last few days or so, I've been watching a lot of content from other content creators on YouTube, and I've been learning so much and finding what they are showing really inspiring, especially in budgeting and preparing food and getting out and about. Really wonderful stuff. And it's amazing what we can all do. We can all do more in order to help get us by these difficult times, especially if we are older, maybe towards retirement and retired, as the winter fuel payments are now being means tested, and a lot of people who really need those payments won't be getting them anymore. And yet our Prime Minister has his pension protected. In 2013 there was a change which he brought forward. At the time he was Director of Public Prosecutions. And you know, we have to wonder at the two-tier system. Anyway, in order to be more resourceful, I've been watching other content creators, and it's brilliant. It's really good. And I'm actually thinking of trying keto. I'm not sure whether I could sustain it long term. I mean, in general, my diet, and even Dan's diet these days, is broadly keto. But I'm toying with the idea of trying it, even if not rigid, a little tighter, to see how we do on that. I mean, I feel quite healthy, but I can always do more. And I wouldn't say I was terribly overweight, but I'm sure I could lose a few pounds. I mean, I've gone down to nearer 12 than a 14, which is good, but really and ideally I would be a 10 to 12. I could do with dropping a dress size from 12 to 14. I might give it a go and see how I get on, or even if I don't stick to it really rigidly, because I'm not very good at doing things like that. Even though I'm ASD, I'm ADHD as well, and I don't really stick very well always to a rigid routine on a long-term basis. But I could look at other ways of tightening up what and the way in which I prepare and serve food. I will look into that and give it considerable thought. I think though the most important thing is to try and avoid additives, preservatives and all those things. And I'm really grateful in some ways that I have allergies and intolerances to all those things, and other chemicals as well that don't belong in the body. And as I always say, if it doesn't belong there, it ain't going in. Today we are going to sit around probably for a while. I'm doing a very keto thing, and I'm having a scone with clotted cream and jam with my meal. That's going to be our lunch today. And I'm having some curry for supper. We'll probably go out later for a walk. I wouldn't mind going to Kew again. We had a really nice afternoon on Wednesday in Kew. And then tomorrow we're meeting my Mills friend Jenny for a coffee, and that's always fun. Sending love and peace and harmony to everyone on the planet.